Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm your host, Glenn Bourbon, and I'm joined here by my co host, Benjamin Goodfellow. This
Hello.
is a breaking news alert. The president has been found to supposedly have a Chinese citizenship card. And this citizenship card has been circulated. We're not sure if it's false or true. However, I would like to bring in my co host on this so that we can discuss this.
Well, certainly this is a massive breaking news story. I mean, we've seen nearly half the cabinet be deported by the Secretary of State for so-called having some sort of being a risk to national security. And some of these people include Theodore Vassir, which owns the Dinosaur Park, as you all know, one of the biggest, the biggest business in Rough. We also have Adam Yang, we have Wyatt J. Francis, and even the Democratic National Committee leader, Liam Carrington. I mean, this is massive, Glenn. This is honestly probably one of the biggest scandals in Bruss history in recent times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the worst things about this is that the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security backed up the Secretary of State on this, and I'm shocked to even see that. Even a judge was supposedly having his citizenship, his passports, and visas revoked. This is one of the greatest affronts to the history of the Cabinet of the United States. However, people are questioning even the president during this time because apparently he has a Chinese citizenship card. We don't know if this is true or false. However, we do know that the president is currently going through a Senate judiciary hearing, or was going through a Senate judiciary hearing. I would love to see what that hearing entails. What do you think about that?
Well, I just think that this should be alarm bells going off in President Mordechai's head, to be honest. I think the president should seriously consider his pick for Secretary of State. I think it was a big mistake because not only has his very successful start of his presidency been ruined by a very, very silly action by one very silly individual, um, and it could have, to be quite frankly, it's ruined the first part of his presidency. And in my view, that it wouldn't surprise me if the Senate is considering impeachment, because, as we know, the Senate is very unstable. Uh, becomes very unstable when we know that the president has a rash cabinet and which is making rash decision making, such as President Powers and many presidents before. I'm sure you can agree with me there, Glenn.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. And some may argue that this is a bad thing. Some may argue that we're not even sure that this Chinese citizenship card is even real. We don't even know if it's true yet. So, do you think that the House really has grounds to impeach him on something that's so frivolous and we don't even know is true?
Personally, I think it's true, and it's not me being, uh, in any way discriminating against the president. I've known the president for a while on these servers, and I think he is generally a very good guy. I think also he's in a lot of servers. He's active in a lot of servers. He tries to uh, speak to as many people, get to know people, and tries to be a nice person. But it wouldn't surprise me if he has some sort of dual citizenship in China.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, do you think that the Democrats would use this as another tool of their propaganda machine? People like Scott Irons, do you think that they're going to parade this around and use it to their total advantage to disable the Republican Party?
Yes, absolutely. I think the Democrats are away, quite frankly, with the theories. I don't think they, quite frankly, know what they're talking about. Um, at the moment. President
Mhm.
Powers, a democratic president, is corrupt, so we can conclude in some way the Democrats are corrupt, and if given a little bit of power, the Democrats will absolutely rule corruption around the United States. And I think this will just be more ways to sort of they at the moment what they're going to probably try to do is try to uh, try to make sure that that their own democratic president doesn't get any backfire, but instead decide to attack the Republicans. I mean, if we look at the recent post by Liam Carrington, um, saying that the Republicans strip those rights away, attacking the very foundation of what it means to be American, which is untrue. There
Mhm.
is no, I will fact check them. I have not even seen one post from the Republican Party to say that they're going to strip any rights away. In fact, I've seen multiple times. I'm seeing looking on the channel for RNC, and I'm just seeing they want to make sure that America's prospers again. That America, they're going to make sure that they're winning for you, the people. So I
Mhm.
think the Democrats are away with the theories, and quite frankly, I think they need to be admitted to a mental institute because I don't think they're mentally very well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now we have a fantastic federal employee calling in. We have a business owner calling in to give his political insight. We have Theo. I am so, so, so happy to have him. How are you, Theo?
I'm exhausted. I've been attacked, viciously villainized by the Secretary of State, the Department of
Hmm.
Homeland Security, my citizenship revoked for no reason whatsoever.
Hmm. Right. And I want to ask you about that. How did you feel when you first saw that announcement from the Secretary of State and the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security?
Well, I believe the Secretary of State was internally motivated. Whilst the President has, of course, denied it, I think the Secretary of State purposely did this as an attack on me because I was speaking with the Secretary of State a few weeks before, as Leo Stone said, he is just a chicken franchise owner acting as Secretary of State. And frankly, he's a terrible Secretary of State. The only reason he's going after me is because I refused to open a Cane's in one of my resorts. And he's all up in arms. I wouldn't give him that marketing like everyone else did.
Hmm. Wow. Okay, so do you feel that the president is at fault for this, even though he announced that he was not in support of the deportations and that no one is going to be deported?
The president is ultimately responsible for this. He appointed the cabinet members. He is solely responsible for what they do in regards to whatever actions they take. And if they are not briefing him on deporting, let's not forget the Secretary of State has deported some of the biggest businesses, the biggest money makers for the economy in the entire of the US. He's gone after just big business owners, maybe even taken down his own competition. The Secretary of State, I mean, and the president is responsible for this. He has to take action and told his Secretary of State accountable. He should be dismissing his Secretary of State. Of course, the Homeland Security Director has been dismissed, but he needs to dismiss the Secretary of State too. It's logical.
Well,
Right.
I got a question for you.
Of course.
Uh, I think if you think that the president is so bad at his job and think that he's incapable of, managing his cabinet, then why haven't you resigned then?
I'm not a member of his cabinet. I work for the people.
Yes, you are. You're the Secretary of Interior.
No, I'm not. I'm the Deputy Chief Mission to Israel at the US Embassy. I'm about to be
And
the UK ambassador,
right,
sir.
right, right. And being in that position within this administration, do you think that you should give up your post in protest?
It did cross my mind to give up my post in protest. However, I believe that it wouldn't be practical for the people which is who in the end we do serve. I don't serve the president, I serve the people, as my motto is, working for the people, solely working for the people. And giving up my position would only leave the US in a more volatile state than it is already.
Mm-hmm. All right. And do you think that the president, although he's made it clear that no one is going to be deported, do you think that he should be held responsible for what his cabinet members do, although they did it without his approval? Me, personally, I think the cabinet members should be in the hot seat. They did this without the president's approval, and he very clearly advised them not to do it, and he said that publicly. Do you think that his dissuasion of them to do this plays a part in all of this, and do you think that he's still guilty, even though he asked them not to?
I agree in some sense of the word. Obviously, I come from a business background. I understand what it takes to run a business, but if one of my employees did something bad, I would be held responsible for what that employee did. Whilst I was not the one who directed the employee to do whatever bad thing, I am still responsible for managing that employee, and I think I believe in being held accountable for that. The same as the way I would hold my managers accountable.
So you think that you would be politically persecuted for something that they did, although you weren't even aware that they did it?
I think it's not the matter of the fact he wasn't aware they did it, it's the fact he's refusing to take action and refusing to do anything apart from give him a little slap on the wrist and move on with it. He's not actually addressing the issue. That this Secretary of State is literally just a grill cook at Keynes. We've got that as our Secretary of State. When I was the former Secretary of Interior and the Secretary of Agriculture, two previous posts that I've held, and I held those posts well because I knew what the people wanted, because those are my backgrounds. The Secretary of State has no background in regards to State Department. He is just a fast food chain owner.
Okay.
But
And
one minute, Glenn. Let me just
Sure.
ask a question.
Absolutely.
You're accusing the Secretary of State of not having a business background, even though he does have a business background in fast food industry, and you've just said he doesn't have a.
I said he doesn't have a business background in regards to the State Department. My business background is in nature, agriculture, in evolving the sustainability and the environment, which was perfectly suited for Secretary of the Interior and Secretary of Agriculture. His big business background of cooking fast food does not prepare him for the challenges of the Department of State.
True. But Mr. Theodore, please elaborate. So your business is in dinosaurs, am I correct?
That is correct on a broad sense of the term. We are a innovation technology company focusing on
which specializes in dinosaurs.
Focusing on prehistoric life, yes.
Right. Okay. So practically, you focus on prehistoric life related to dinosaurs. And
Yes.
because you relate to prehistoric life, which relates to dinosaurs, that makes you more eligible for someone which is applying for Secretary of State, because you're researching prehistoric life, which is prehistoric, not present term, and also relates to a subject which has very little to no correspondence to agriculture or the interior.
I completely disagree with that, because in order to appropriately create a natural environment for the resorts and the parks and maintaining a valid ecosystem, regardless of what nature is, and you also miss the fact that I'm a key investor in many of the largest zoos across the world and focused on evolving modern day wildlife, and that was my expertise before scientific innovations made prehistoric life possible. I have had a background in modern day wildlife and conservation. I worked hand in hand with people within the UK during their campaign to members of parliament to ensure that they were focusing on stability outside of the parks, building housing complexes, focusing on environmental sustainability, trying to go the extra mile. I was speaking with the Secretary of Energy just the other day about how our resort is entirely self-sufficient and entirely green energy, creating a perfect environment for living creatures, which doesn't just include prehistoric life. There is other naturally occurring nature there. Regular, normal animals are there.
But that's impossible. It's blocks.
Right,
Hmm?
and if I could quickly interject here, I'd like to ask a question about the Senate hearing that's going on right now. I would like to hear from Benjamin and then you, Theo. What do you guys think will come out of this?
I think is definitely going to be questions about the president's leadership style, and is if he cannot control his cabinet, as I said, how can he even control the country? I think there's going to be big questions, and I think we could be seeing a big rift, a big divide, possibly in the Democratic Party. We may see some representatives and some senators, sorry, not supporting the president's actions, and we could even see some possible Republicans actions, because, as we know, Republicans are always more stern on the deportation of people, and we could see possibly some Republicans question some of the decisions the government made, and maybe thought it may have been appropriate, but also people may consider that the extreme nature of their deportations was too extreme, and damaged the actual stability of the government, because half of the cabinet nearly was fired. But I do feel that the president really needs to start injecting some confidence into the Senate for his term to turn out successful, and for him to pass some great legislation through, because if he doesn't have the confidence of his Senate, then there's not really much Mr. President can do.
Mm-hmm. And Theodore?
I would say, wait, can you repeat the question? I totally blanked what the question was.
Sure. What do you think will come out of the Senate hearing?
I think the likelihood is he'll either be impeached or nothing will change. We're in a state in the United States where we've gone through about 4 or 5 presidents in the past 2 months, which is ridiculous. The stability is just not there, and I understand the reasons for the deportations, but I also think some of them, not just mine, were completely unjustified. Because while the president may not have directly ordered them, his cabinet is responsible for enacting his directives. He is responsible for coordinating and moderating his cabinet. They are the. I mean, when one of my employees messes up, I can say, "Oh, but this manager should have done that. They should have overseen that." But they are his direct subordinates. They are the people directly reporting to him. It is his responsibility to make sure they do the job right. And I think that the Senate will ultimately decide, of course, but I think the Senate should definitely hold him accountable for his actions.
All right.
Have you
Well,
ever?
here's.
Oh,
Mhm.
sorry. Have you ever considered Iran, Theodore? If you feel that there's so much instability within Brus, you're obviously a very successful business person with a lot of drive and ambition. Would you consider a run for the presidency?
I believe, and if I may speak out of any roleplay, I believe that if I was to run for president or any sort of government office, I wouldn't run on some. Am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Great. I wouldn't run on any made up bullshit on trying to reduce the taxation or something. I would run on a simple factor: stability. Brus is dying. The server count is growing. That is a fact. The server count is growing. The community is not. When a community is as toxic as Bruss is, there is no way it can thrive, because when people join, they do not join the community itself. They are not invited to the community. They are cut out of it. And in order for that to change, some major strides need to be taken, not just from the moderation, but from the community itself, which includes the departments picking up their weight and putting some effort in. And if I was to run for president or any political office, that's what the stance I'd take is. People need to understand that voting in the same people, the same recycled old politicians, is not going to work. They're not going to magically work. It will just lead to 4 more months of people, then of impeachments and drama, and then 4 more months, and then 4 months until eventually it will die out.
Guys, I'm getting word that the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security is resigning,
Oh God, that might
or
kickstart
that he
a.
wants to resign, and the message was just deleted.
It's quite intriguing.
Yes, but on another note, actually, one of the top forms of office is president, and I think that during Mordecai's time as president, he made a lot of useful changes. He made a lot of good changes. I think that this one thing is detracting from his overall legacy, which I think is pretty good.
I completely agree. The problem, as I was saying before, the problem with the community is, what I didn't get around to mentioning is, you make one small mistake and you are held responsible for it forever. You make one tiny little error, you are held responsible for it. If you don't have a plot, if you don't have this, you don't have that, you are held responsible. And that's just not a very productive way on hosting a community. We look at Bruss, it's been around for 2-3 years now, and it's got 700 members, which is very impressive, 700, 800 members. We look at my server, which is nearly 1,000 members after just 5 months operating. No drama, no conflicts, complete activity every single weekend, with no one fighting amongst each other. And of course you can definitely argue, and I 100% agree, my company is a resort and science company, which is entirely different from a politics server. However, there is no reason why the same principles of an opening and welcoming community can't be implemented into Bruss the same way that I have implemented them into my company.
Right, and I think that we should talk about how other people within the server are thinking about this. Like, I'd say personally, the former Secretary of State, we can see that he actually trademarked some presidential campaigning material. What do you guys think of that?
I mean, the trademark system itself is a bit niche, isn't it? The Department of Commerce isn't doing great. They've failed to secure any sort of meaningful connection with the 2 largest businesses, i.e. Adam Yang and Mines. The Secretary of Commerce doesn't learn from her mistakes. They're actually planning to introduce taxes, because if the community wasn't much of a drawaway, you have to pay taxes now to the US government, which I'm sure will just make everyone.
I have to stop you there. The Secretary of Department of Homeland Security has actually resigned. It's been confirmed.
Well, that's just wonderful, isn't it?
And I think he may have left the server. Do not quote me on that, but I think he has left the server. I think we may see more resignations as we go on tonight.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people are taking advantage of this opportunity that this unfortunate situation has given them, like former Secretary of State Henry Reyes. He's declared that he's not really decided on whether he's going to run, but these trademark filings look like he's going to run. Do you think that would be a good thing, Theodore?
He has held how many offices in the past? I've been in Bruss for... That's a rhetorical question. I've been in Bruss for about 4 or 5 months now. He has held so many offices. What we need from a president is someone who doesn't just keep taking offices, because he takes jobs. Sure, Henry takes jobs, and don't get me wrong, he's a smart cookie, but he just keeps taking jobs and taking jobs and taking jobs. Has he actually done anything in those jobs? No, Evie. No. The answer is no. He hasn't. When he was president pro tempore, he did nothing. He barely attended his sessions. He then cried for the next week because he didn't get president when there was that whole incident. And why should we have 4 more months of the same contributive bollocks?
Then
Look,
run for president. Then, Theo, I think if you really want to see the change you want, then you've got to take some initiative and you've got to run, because, to be quite honest, Bruss needs real change. In fact, they need to make Bruss great again.
I have been
In some
speaking with
way.
members of the community from I'm not going to specify parties. I am speaking to the people of the community, because I am 100% on board with each and every person, and every person, no matter how powerful they are, the most senior people in Bruss, the lowest people in Bruss, they all agree that something needs to change. But the only reason why I wouldn't be the one to change it is because I wouldn't be able to secure all the votes the way that other people could.
well, actually, I'd like to go on to a previous thing that you mentioned. You said that he doesn't do anything in his offices. He quite notably strengthened our relations with Israel. He increased the Department of State's infrastructure
No.
roster. He did a lot during being Secretary of
May I
State.
interlude?
Mhm.
Interlude's not the right word. That's a common misconception of a lot of things. You see, when you appoint someone above someone, you shouldn't be looking at that person. The current chief mission to Israel and to future Deputy Secretary of State, Gordon Spencerson, my superior, I am not complimenting them because they are my superior. I genuinely don't care, but I am complimenting them because they are a competent person. They speak to people. They are one of the people who Bruss should be striving to make the senior positions in Bruss. And to say it's Henry's accomplishment for appointing someone, that is not remotely true.
Well, he did speak with the prime minister directly within the prime minister's office. He gave a whole press conference about it. I mean, if we're going to talk about accomplishments, he's had a lot of accomplishments, Theodore, and 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 he's been in office for each of his jobs. I think like at least 1 month. And on top of that, he only missed 3 sessions as president pro tempore. So I don't think that all of those things are negatives or detractors from everything that he's done. I think that that builds experience. Do you get where I'm coming from?
I completely get where you're coming from, but I mean, taking another pinch from my server, my server's growth isn't entirely mine. I organize things, I set up the content creators, I grow the server, but at the end of the day, the server's progression isn't my doing. The server's progression is a group effort, and I think if Henry Reyes was a genuine human being, he would give credit to other people. When I look at my record is made up of everyone's achievements, not just mine, because Henry Reyes, sure, he has taken many jobs, and sure, he has experience, but having jobs and having experience does not make someone competent and fit to become commander-in-chief, because you saw him when he didn't become commander-in-chief, when he was president pro tempore, and it skipped over him because the Speaker of the Senate took over. Speaker of the House, sorry.
Right.
And more of him.
I actually think that people give him credit, a lot of credit for everything that he's done. And I think that being in a lot of jobs specifically shows that you can take anything that's thrown at you. Now, Theodore, I know that you may not like Henry. I know that you may not enjoy a lot of the things that he does. But as being your former superior, I think that you should at least acknowledge what he's done for the Department of State, for the Senate, kind of reforming the Senate during his reign as president pro tempore, and currently doing a great job in the news sector. He can take anything that's thrown at him. So I think that it's highly possible that he could be president.
I 100% agree. I'm sure he could be president, but do we really want more of the same recycled people, the same people going through and through and through the system? Because right now, the system.
He's been recycled.
He is recycled. There's a list of people who are who keep taking the same jobs and keep doing the same senior positions, which completely leaves the server just in the same loop of this toxicity and this complete and utter disrespect for any new members in the community, which is just disgraceful. Like, we cannot grow the community. We cannot improve on the community if we keep appointing him. And
Wow.
I do not believe he would be capable as president, because as was seen when he was president pro tempore and he was going to become president, he threw an absolute hissy fit for a week when he didn't become president. He threw a second hissy fit when I didn't build his house for him. And he keeps throwing hissy fits when he doesn't get what he wants. Why would we want that in the White House?
Well, Theodore, I think that it's important to note that he was in line for the presidency. I think there was some mishap with the speaker at that time. And if the speaker wasn't available, then constitutionally, he was in line for the presidency. However, he didn't get it. But I don't think he threw a hissy fit for a week. Now I know because I'm personally friends with him. I don't think he threw a hissy fit. I think he just pointed out some of the flaws within Powers' grasp or within Powers' sphere, and some of the flaws with the process that was
about the Lucas
determined.
Bennett administration, the 1 week one after President Oscar Gonzalez. He threw a hissy fit for a week in chat. In all the chat rooms, he kept complaining, saying, I was going to be president, I was going to be president, I was going to be president. And he never stopped. And do we really want more of that? We need a president who can...
Okay. According to news that I'm hearing now, this hasn't really been fact-checked or not, but according to news I'm just hearing now, President Siegel confirms that he is part of the Chinese Communist Party during the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, and I'm not sure if this is true. I'm not sure if his words may be taken out of context. This is what's being reported, and this is a very interesting thing. I'd like to get your words on that, Theodore.
It certainly is interesting. I'm sure it definitely warrants an investigation, but I don't think speculating about the president's potential involvement, even if he did say it directly, honestly, he should just be held accountable straight up for his actions. I mean, he is responsible for his actions. He should be held accountable for his actions. He cannot misdirect them in any way. He needs to be held accountable for them. There's not really an excuse for that. You have to be held accountable for your actions.
Yeah, and I totally agree. However, I think that an investigation needs to happen too. I think that an investigation is completely warranted. I think that the issue that we're all acknowledging is that the Senate has used this judiciary hearing to discuss something extremely difficult, and I'll definitely be watching very, very clearly and very, very valiantly. And I'd like to hear from what Benjamin would like to say on this. The president supposedly saying he's a member of the Chinese Communist Party. But honestly, if I'm giving my personal belief, Benjamin, I really, really think that it's an issue that needs to be discussed and explored and investigated. Because if it's not, I mean, this whole party issue is here. Is he not a member? I think it needs to be investigated, and then we should make a decision, and then the House can impeach him or not. What do you think of him supposedly saying that he's a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
I'm sorry, I was just at the recently renovated ABC Studios new toilet. I would just could you just repeat who?
Sure.
Was it the president?
Yes, the president.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the president, obviously, as I said before, and I've said it again and again and again, but the president is obviously in a lot of servers. I know the president is involved in a lot of servers, but now what you just told me about him missing to becoming a member of the Chinese Communist Party is something not to be proud of. I mean, America is proud of its democracy, and having a member of a communist party is quite frankly disgraceful and a threat to our democracy. Personally, I think it is a shame for the Democrats because it's just shown that they actually allow communists to join their party. I'm sad.
President Siegel is a Republican.
Is he?
He switched over
Yeah,
to
well,
Republicans a couple of days ago.
yes, but only after he transitioned, and he just recently became a Republican. And as RNC chairman, I wasn't aware that he had became a Republican until someone had to inform me. However, I'd like to get off of that because I think that that's irrelevant to effectively doing the job as president.
Yeah,
I disagree. If you're,
no,
it doesn't matter if you're Republican or
no, but I
Democrat.
think I agree with Glenn. I think that Mr. President, that's irrelevant. What we've just said, but it doesn't correlate to anything. What the president does, he's still trying his absolute best to resolve this issue. It
May I
was a long
speak?
time ago during the thing.
That doesn't make my thought go away. You were speaking very aggressively about it when it was a Democrat, when you thought he was a Democrat doing it. I think we should take it from both sides. My personal opinion is we just need to hold him solely accountable for his actions. They are his actions, not our party's actions, his actions. But if you hold him accountable
may I
for his
remind
party,
you, Mr. Vesser, that you're on the show to Theodore, you're on the show to call in, and you've already had a long time. So
Right.
I am on the
in
show
mind.
because I believe in giving people the truth. And I believe that we
You're
should
on
let
the show because you're a shareholder, and I was forced to let you
And
on. That's the reason why.
right. And Theo, I would like to ask, I would like to ask one last question regarding this whole thing. There has been a image circulating of a Chinese citizenship card. Do you believe that's real?
I believe that it's warranting of investigation. I am in the Chinese Discord server. However, I'm not active in it or involved in it. It was an entirely business-related affair, business-related trip that I was invited to by the Chinese premier, but I have not been involved in any way in that because, well, obviously not. I have standards and stuff. But I believe that if the president was involved, then he should take some moral accountability, own up. I think we really need someone honest. Like I was saying earlier, we need someone honest in the Oval Office if we're going to make any sort of meaningful change in the community, instead of having someone who will just hide behind the Secret Service and some ironclad doors at the White House.
Right. And I think we all can agree that we need an honest president. And Theo, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the program. It's been amazing. I wish you best in your mission to Israel. I know the Prime Minister personally. He's an amazing guy, and thank you so much for coming on. This has been an absolute pleasure.
It has. Thank you very much.
I'm sure Benjamin really enjoyed it too.
Yeah, I had a great time, and thanks for taking time out of your day to come on the show. It's appreciated by myself, and we just hope you have a nice rest of your day. And I say that from the bottom of my heart.
Of course, I hope the investments, and of course, I hope ABC does continue to thrive, as it is one of, if not one of the best news networks currently operating in Bruss.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
and to all of our viewers and to all of our audience, always feel free to join the Jurassic Entertainment server and have a fun time at their park. Thank you so much, Theo.
Thank you.
All right, now, Benjamin, before we end the show, would you like to give your closing thoughts?
Well, I would. I love to, Glenn. Well, today we've concluded that the president is in big trouble with the Senate or possible with registering as a Chinese Communist Party member, which obviously was a regrettable decision which was made a long time ago as a Democrat. And we can conclude that the Democrats has obviously pressured him to do that, someone deep down in the Democratic Party. We can also conclude that possibly the president has made some rash decision making while making his cabinet, untrustworthy people within the cabinet, but you cannot do 100% background checks on your cabinet. You can only make a decision on what you actually see. We've got to understand the president is not a mind reader, and we must remember that. But overall, there is some cracks, but you can always fill in the cracks
Hmm.
with a bit of plaster or a bit of tape. And I think this administration just needs a bit of tape, a bit of patching up, a few new a reshuffle. And I've got great confidence in this administration that this administration will entirely make Bruss great again. It's gonna boost up business. We're gonna improve competency in the server and drive out these incompetent members, and help business grow for people like Theo, and overall make the server a better place.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I just wanted to say this as my closing statement. With the Secretary of State possibly being in jeopardy of losing his job, I think that the only conceivable replacement would be the current ambassador to Israel, Gordon Spencerson. And in regards to a possible presidential run, because this whole situation is being taken advantage of by hopefuls, presidential hopefuls. So I think that the best option for this time, with the current candidates who may be running, uh, I think the best option would be Henry Reyes. Me personally, that's my personal opinion, and if he does run, that's who I'll be voting for. Um, if if no other suitable candidates rise up. And on President Mordecai Siegel, with this current admission, I'd love to see where this stands. However, I think that an investigation is in order. After an investigation occurs and we have a full report of everything that is true and not true, then I believe that the House can make a decision on impeachment or not. Honestly, at the end of the day, I totally agree with you, Benjamin, and I think that this administration needs patching up because with its current accomplishments, it's looked great. This one detractor has brought the whole thing down, and I honestly think that we need to reevaluate some of the things that we do in Bruss. So, those are my
I think
closing statements. Thank you so much for watching ABC News. I've been your host, Glenn Bourbon, and my amazing co host, Benjamin Goodfellow. I would love to see you next live on Good Morning America. We're going to have such an interesting guest. We're going to have an amazing time. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
absolutely. Thank you all, and have a lovely evening, and we'll see you all soon at ABC. Thanks for joining us here live today. Thank you.